Hey friends, welcome to the Enneagram Workshop's typing resource. So I created this resource because I was not happy with a lot of the quizzes and tests that I saw online to help people type themselves. Often they were being mistyped, or they were just very time consuming. We're talking 60, 70, upwards of 180 questions to have to go through to get to your type. And at the end of the day, I didn't feel like they were very accurate. On the other hand, I had a lot of friends and clients who didn't have the time to invest in reading an entire book with every type of the Enneagram explained in detail in order for them to come to the knowledge of what their type was. So that's where this resource comes in, and here's how it works. It's very simple. You're gonna get a piece of paper and a pen. Go ahead and pause this video if you don't have one already and come back when you do. And you're going to write the numbers 1 through 9 3 times, and you're going to make 3 rows of numbers. So it'll look just like this when you're finished. 1 through 9, 3 rows, one right on top of the other. Once you've got that, I'm going to go ahead and cover 3 basic aspects of the Enneagram. And as I describe the different aspects, you're going to circle the numbers that apply to you. And when we've finished with all 3 layers, there should be one number that is consistent through every single piece of the Enneagram wisdom. And that will help you understand your number. Now, there may be one section that people tend to have a little bit of difficulty deciding between 2 different groupings of numbers. If that happens, go ahead and circle both. And when we get to that point, I'll let you know. Go ahead and circle both if you're really having trouble picking one or the other. And at the very end, you may end up with 2 numbers, which is still okay. Even if you're not settled on your one exact type, knowing the 2 numbers that you're going between gives you an amazing starting point to be able to investigate further, but with a much narrower focus. So instead of having to read a book on all 9 types, you can just pick the 2 chapters that go with the 2 numbers that you're in between. And there's even an opportunity for you to schedule a one-on-one call with me where I can walk you through some more questions and we can discuss and come back and forth, and I can help you settle on your type once and for all. So I'm here for you from start to finish. But let's get started with our typing. So the first thing that we're going to go through is we're going to talk about the basic cores and desires and fears of each type. So as I read through each type's basic core desire and core fear, you're gonna circle the one that resonates with you. Now, you can circle more than one. There are actually 3 core fear and desires that I kind of feel like, oh, that hits me. And when I say hits you, of course we all want love, we all want security, we all want wisdom, but I want you to circle the one that you actually spend a lot of time thinking about, doing something about, obsessing about, longing for. I'm talking something that's deep in your core rather than, oh yeah, that sounds good, I would like to have, more wisdom on things. We're going deep here. I want you to be as aware of yourself as you can as I walk through these types. And again, it's okay to circle more than one. Most people have either 1, 2, or 3 that they typically circle, and that's totally fine. All right, so let's get started. Type 1. Circle the number 1 if your core desire is to be good, to have integrity, and your core fear is to be bad, imbalanced, defective, or corrupt. You're going to circle type 1 if that resonates with you. Circle type 2 if your core desire is to feel love and to be needed, and your core fear is being unloved or unlovable. You're going to circle type 2. Type 3. Circle type 3 if your core desire is to feel valuable and to be successful, and if your core fear is being worthless or bringing nothing to the table. Type 4, circle type 4 if your core desire is to be yourself and to be understood, or if your core fear is having no identity or significance. Type 5, circle type 5 if your core desire is to be capable and competent, or if your core fear is being helpless or incompetent or incapable in a situation. Type 6, circle type 6, if your core desire is to have support and guidance and security, or if your core fear is being without support or guidance. Type 7s, circle type 7, if your core desire is to be satisfied and to have freedom and experience the fullness of life, or if your core fear is being trapped in pain or deprivation or a lack of options. Type 8, circle type 8, if your core desire is to protect yourself and those you love, and your core fear would be to be harmed, controlled, or violated. And then type 9, circle type 9, if your core desire is to have peace of mind and wholeness, and if your core fear is loss, separation, conflict, or disunity. So you can feel free to go back and listen again if you feel like you need to, but those are all of the core fears and core desires of each number. And so you should have, let me go ahead and go through this myself. If I was answering, I would circle this one, and this one. So I've got my 3 circled, and hopefully you have at least one circled for yourself. Now we're gonna move to row 2. Now I'm going to go over 3 different stances. And these 3 stances have 3 numbers in each one of them. So I'm going to describe all 3, and then when I'm finished, I'll tell you which numbers correlate with each stance. So as I say all 3, you're gonna, in your mind, pick one, and then I'll tell you which numbers to circle based on which stance you chose. This is the part where some people sometimes have difficulty choosing between 2 of the stances. And if at the end of me explaining all of this, you feel like, well, I kind of feel like I'm this one, and I kind of feel like I'm this one, go ahead and circle both. And you'll probably end up with 2 numbers at the end, and that's okay. So here we go. Stance number 1. Stance number 1 would be you if you feel like you like to move forward, create a future, build things, plan things, execute things. You often feel like everyone else is moving too slow and you have lots of energy. So you're very future oriented and you feel like you can create a better future. That's stance number 1. Stance number 2, you want to do things well and you worry that sometimes you're not doing them as well as you should. You're not pleasing those around you. You're very aware of people and you depend on their feedback to know how you're doing in the world. Your orientation to time is the present and you're very concerned with what needs to be done now. So that's stance number 2. Stance number 3, you like to sit back and observe, ponder, and reflect. You may daydream quite a bit. You may feel slightly detached from the relationships that stance number 2 has, or the action of stance number 1, and your orientation to time is the past. You really like to reflect. You really like to reminisce. So that's stance 3. This is a very brief overview of the 3 stances, but I feel like it's enough that you can pick out which one is probably yours. So go ahead, if you're stance number 1, I want you to circle numbers 3, 7, and 8. If you are that future-oriented, create a better future type of person. If you are in stance 2 and you are that present-oriented, what needs to be done now, what are feedback that people's giving me, if that's you, stance 2, then you're going to circle numbers 1, 2, and 6. And finally, stance 3, if you are more in the past, reminiscent, pondering, reflective, observing type of person, then you're going to circle numbers 4, 5, and 9. So stance 1 is 3, 7, and 8. Stance 2 is 1, 2, and 6. And stance 3 is 4, 5, and 9. So I'm going to go ahead and circle mine right now. So at this point, you should have a couple of different numbers circled on different rows. We're almost there, guys. Finally, we're going to move into the 3rd row. And the third row is your centers of intelligence. And that's just a fancy way of saying how you initially respond and with what part of yourself you initially respond, especially when you get an unexpected bit of bad news. So I'm going to ask you to put yourself in that frame of mind. Someone just called you and something difficult is going to happen in your life, something unexpected, something slightly tragic, maybe not life or death, but it's a disappointment and it came very unexpectedly. So again, I'm going to go through 3 different responses, and then at the end, whatever response you chose, I'll tell you which numbers to circle. So the first response will be a response of shame, of heartbreak, wondering if it's your fault, there's something you can do, or there's something wrong with you and it might have caused all of this. So kind of a shameful, heartbroken, could I have done something? Is this my fault? What's, that sort of response. That will be response number 1, the shame response. Response number 2, if you respond in fear, confusion, trying to figure out why or what to do to protect yourself moving forward, it's a very intellectual and more in your mind. Okay, this happened. I've got to figure out what to do. That's going to be the fear and mind response. And the third response will be an anger response. In your gut, you feel this fire, this instinctual intensity when something happens that was unexpectedly wrong. You almost don't even have time to think, and you certainly don't necessarily feel shame or that it's your fault. You just want to move to action, and you have this gut anger burning in your belly. So we're going to call that the anger or the gut response. So if you would relate more to a shame, heartbroken feelings response, you're going to circle numbers 2, 3, and 4. If you feel more of a fear, mind, let's figure out, let's protect response, you're going to circle numbers 5, 6, and 7. And if you feel more of a gut, anger, intensity response, you're going to circle numbers 8, 9, and 1. So I'm going to go ahead and fill mine out here. And you should have, especially if you only chose one thing for each section, you should have one number that is consistent amongst all of the rows. So for me, you can see 3, 3, and 3. 3 is consistent all the way through, and I am indeed a type 3. Now, if you had trouble answering some of these questions, or you weren't sure which one you were between in some of the rows that we went through, and you have more than one number that's consistent through all 3, again, that's totally fine. You can either on your own go online or get a book and start researching those 2 numbers and start doing some self-reflection as well. Start thinking about, how do I respond in certain scenarios? Where is my mindset when I go through hard times or when I go through situations? And most likely you will start to fall into your actual number and it will start to reveal itself to you. If, however, you want to shortcut it and just hash it out, sit down with someone like me and talk through. I have lots of questions to ask that are going to draw out of you the true motivations of your heart so that we can really settle on your type. You can go ahead and schedule a typing session with me. I normally charge, they're 30-minute sessions and normally charge $45 for them, but for you, having gone through all of this content already, it's on special for $30 for the typing session. And I would love to get to sit and talk and see you face to face, get a video chat going, and help you get settled on your type. If, however, it's very clear to you what type you are, like it was for me, everything lines up and you know what type you are, this is only the beginning, my friends. This is not the end of your journey. I have tons of resources for you to know, well, what do I do with this information? What do I do now that I know my type? I have guided meditations. I have some PDF descriptions that can walk you through what your type is. And then I also have some amazing content that I like to send over text, and I call them Enneacouragements, Enneagram encouragements for you that come just a couple times a week straight to your phone to encourage you to be your best self, to be the highest version and healthiest version of your number. And they're really beautiful little encouragements and nuggets of truth that are specific for your type. So you'll get an email to help you sign up for that and have all the information for how you can access some of my resources. Thanks again for being a part of this training, this resource, and thank you for letting me be a part of your journey into the Enneagram. It's an amazing journey, and I can't wait for you to continue now that you know your type.